Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. It's April 24th today. My show notes say 23rd. We were a little bit busy last night playing softball and watching hockey.
The Boston Bruins.
Oh, here we go. We are we're we live in New England. I won't say who we're rooting for, what we're fans of, because we'll probably lose like 100 followers.
I think we've said it in the past.
Yeah, that's true. My name is Morgan Colby. This is Rick Lemon right across from me. We got a great show prepared for you today. The NFL draft is in just 2 days.
Well, it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow now, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could say it's 2 days.
Here's the decision.
Yeah.
You watch the NFL draft, you watch the Boston Bruins, or you watch Avengers Endgame.
I'm going to say the NFL draft.
That's how you know you're like kind of like a loser a little bit.
A little bit.
You know.
You just offended half of our audience.
I'm just saying. I mean, okay, it's one thing. So there's probably a lot of people listening that don't like hockey and don't care about the Avengers. So
probably
I guess
90% of the people listening to the podcast.
I guess.
They do one thing. They play fantasy football all year round.
That's my 9-to-5 job.
That's my 9. Yeah. We will discuss the top rookies from the running back / wide receiver positions in 2018 on this show. We got a lot of guys, including Barkley, Lindsey, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, lots of players that we are going to go over and discuss. But, every episode got to go over the opening.
Hogwash.
Yeah, hogwash. Is that what you want to call it?
That's what we're going to call it, yeah.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the FF Champs. Go to Instagram, we're over there too, at the Fantasy Champions. Facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. You can like us there. Subscribe wherever you listen. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Your support is much appreciated. We're also on YouTube. You can subscribe there. Leave a review and share the podcast with your friends. Let's get started with the news. Kyler Murray is reportedly not going to be the first overall pick. Now, that's not official. Don't take any official word from me. I have no sources. I might have a few. No, I don't. Kyler Murray is reportedly right now, it's shifting in the direction of him not being the first pick in the draft. That's what is being rumored out there now. The Cardinals have come out and said that they don't know what they're doing with the pick yet, so it's still up in the air. We don't know.
They're probably just saying that to say that. They probably already have a decision.
Yep.
But if you're 1 day away from the draft and you've been thinking about this for months and you don't know what you're going to do, like if they're being serious, which I doubt they are.
If you're an Arizona Cardinal fan, I apologize.
Yeah.
That
shows they don't really have a plan.
The Browns had a plan last year. They just kept it secret.
Yeah.
It was Baker all the way. They sold their soul on Baker, and I made fun of them. I love you, Baker Mayfield.
They were ready for the bake.
I'm not going to say that. Bears. You know where I was going. Bears said that they aren't looking to draft a running back. It's not a big need for them. Yeah.
Dude, Mike Davis.
Don't you love Mike Davis as the starting running back?
Tyreek Cohen, the human joystick.
They're going to draft a running back. I'm sorry. I don't buy into that.
They
might draft him in the 3rd round. They said it's not a pressing need.
They might draft. They'll probably draft a running back like later in the draft.
I think 4th or 5th round. But what do I know?
No sources.
No sources. Odell Beckham's. He went on a little Twitter rant the other day, talking about somebody said he was the cancer. Well, a lot of people have said this, but he was the cancer in the Giants locker room, and that was the reason why they were losing last season. So he decided to set the record straight on Twitter.
Oh boy, that's always a good thing to do.
Go on.
You
Twitter.
get offended. Time to set the record straight on Twitter,
yeah.
bro.
Go straight to Twitter and tell everyone exactly how you feel. That's 101 right there.
Yeah. I mean, ask the president.
It's so true. Odell Beckham freaked out, said that he wanted to win and that he wasn't the problem in the locker room. I'm not taking anyone's side here, but no one believes you, Odell.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like
watch the Giants win like 11 games.
I don't think he was the reason they were losing, but I don't necessarily think he wasn't a cancer in the locker room either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Like the Giants are just like a bad team, but
yeah. Odell, there's this like notion that Odell is very, he is a very competitive guy. He doesn't freak out for nothing. He does want to win.
Yeah.
But people try to compare his spaz outs to Tom Brady's spaz outs, and everyone looks at Tom Brady's spaz outs as like, oh, he's working hard as a player, and then Odell's like freak outs as like, oh, he's a punk kid.
Yeah.
Not. But Tom Brady doesn't kick nets over and tackle the kicker net and the sidelines. Like, he's a little bit overreactive. I love Odell Beckham anyway. Jonathan Stewart retired yesterday, I believe. That is complete and utter. A lot of people just
retired
lost
for like 3 years.
A lot of people just lost their first overall pick in fantasy football.
Dude, that was my guy. I had him on the board since
the second overall pick.
Jonathan Stewart, the guy that killed the duo Carolina Panthers running back for years.
Yeah, that's true. Raiders are reportedly going to make a surprising pick at 4.
Quarterback.
No, it's not going to be quarterback.
Well, if it's surprising,
people have been talking about quarterbacks for months. You know who it's going to be? The tight end, T.J. Hawkins.
Oh, gosh.
I'm telling you right now, when it happens, it happens.
I mean, I like the tight end, but to pick a tight end at 4.
Hawk is going number 4.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the Raiders.
You do you, Raiders. I mean, after the offseason they've had, is anything they do going to be surprising?
Yeah, that's true. Everyone making fun of the Raiders, but I don't know. They're going to be pretty good next year.
I like what they're doing, actually, a little bit. Well, I think they don't really have a direction, but
yeah,
like the overall scheme of things, I have liked. Like getting Antonio Brown cheap, I liked.
Yeah. They're not bad at what they're doing right now.
The moves they've done, I liked, but it doesn't have a direction. But
so
they have a very tough schedule next year.
There was a big report also a little bit earlier. I got to get to the next thing, but that said that Mike Mayock and John Gruden basically told all of their scouts that they were out of the conversations about who they were going to draft, all of them, because they didn't trust anyone. Not because they didn't trust anyone's scouting ability, but because they thought that those people would leak whatever the Raiders were going to do to the media, so they didn't want that. So they just got rid of them all.
So let's get rid of our trained scouts, and we'll watch NFL Network and decide who we're going to draft.
No, don't you know Mike Mayock used to work for you?
Exactly, that's why I said it. He's going to do like one of his segments, but with like no
He's been doing this
camera.
for months already. Might as well just go with Mayock. No.
He's got first-round arm talent.
Dwayne Haskins thinks he's going to the Redskins. So there was a report that said the Redskins were looking to trade up. They wanted a quarterback. Then there was a report.
They do need a quarterback.
There was a report that the Redskins were making progress on trading up. And then there was a report also that Dwayne Haskins thinks he's going to the Redskins. If you put all the puzzle pieces together, Dwayne Haskins is the next RG3.
Well, it's not necessarily a good thing.
No, that's
the problem. So Dwayne Haskins, if he goes to the Redskins, that team is not going to be good. And when they aren't good next year, everybody will be like, Dwayne Haskins was an awful pick. Why'd you take him? Like, he'll be in a position to fail, I think, if he goes to the Redskins. Which stinks for him, but...
Breaking news.
Tyreek Hill is actually going to be playing this year, I guess.
Oh.
He's reportedly not going to be charged after being investigated in 2 separate child abuse cases.
So he's free.
According
you hear that, Dynasty owners?
Oh, boy.
Patrick Mahomes believers.
Stop.
Kansas City, my people.
No. The NFL hasn't made any decisions as to what they're going to do. There is still a chance that he is released by the Chiefs. That's what this report says. So we still aren't out of the woods on Tyreek Hill, but the fact that the DA in Johnson County is what this says. Steve Howe has said that there was no crimes committed by Tyreek Hill in this situation is good. A good step.
Yeah, he only
in the right direction.
maybe potentially beat his family.
Yeah, that's true. And one final piece of news: Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles, is reportedly available for trades. They don't want to pay him because they're paying Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson big money. So
that'd be a decent pickup.
Yeah, it would be.
I don't know why Philly wouldn't just keep him though and have.
He was a first-round pick 4 years ago and kind of flopped.
Yeah, he's still a decent player though. He's a good receiver. He's just not if you take a guy in the first round, you expect him to be more of a top, your top guy, and he's not that. But he is a good receiver though.
Right. Let's move into our main segment of the show, Rookie Breakout.
Rookie Breakout.
Today we are going to discuss, like I said, top five. No, not the top five. Well, yeah, the top five at each position for rookie running backs and wide receivers from 2018. We want to break down the rookies from 2018, give you a little bit of an idea of how they will produce in 2019 and their draft value. So where you should be drafting them. I want to preface this. As you know, our podcast is half PPR. We do talk about PPR and standard a little bit, but mostly half PPR because it's the middle of the road. So all stats are based on half PPR. Let's get started with the running backs. Number 1, Saquon Barkley. Let's move on. We talked about Barkley quite a bit.
We're going to keep talking about him.
And we're going to keep talking about him all the way till the end of the century. I actually have shifted my thoughts on Saquon.
Okay.
I think he should be the running back 101. And
wow, pick 101, bro. That'd be a steal.
That would be an absolute steal. I think he should be the first overall pick in fantasy drafts. Before I was kind of nervous to take him because I felt like there was a lot of question marks surrounding him, but at this point, he's like the only guy.
Well, you don't like pictures of Zeke being 300 pounds on Twitter?
I'm all set with that. Zeke wasn't my number 1 running back anyway. I'm forced to take Saquon, number 1. Thank you, fantasy. Thank you.
It's like, oh, man, my choices are so tough. I'm either stuck with Barkley, Saquon or Zeke Elliott or Todd Gurley. Oh.
He was the number 1 most consistent. We talked about this on the running back show, so we don't need to spend a ton of time on Saquon, but he is the number 1 ranked consistency rank. He only busted 6% of the time, with a bust being under 12 points.
He had one game under 12 points.
One game under 12 points. So Saquon Barkley was an absolute beast last year. I think he has, from season 1 to season 2, I think he can make a lot of improvements. He hasn't done anything stupid like Zeke's second year in the league. He got suspended for 4 games for God knows what. I don't remember. But Barkley's going to start full time, and I think he might actually be like I look at Zeke as an extremely talented running back, but I don't know why he keeps putting on weight.
Because he likes Chick-fil-A, bro.
He does. He loves Chick-fil-A.
Can't blame him.
Saquon Barkley probably is the most talented running back in the league. I really do like him. I think if I was sitting there at 1, I would be okay taking him with the first overall pick.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be, I'm just gonna take him right now. I've had my reservations and I've put them.
You've thought about it.
Away. I've thought about it. I put them away.
It is still very early though.
It is still very early. I just think it's more or less his. He was just a beast this year. There's no 2 ways about it. I think the other thing is I heard on a I think it was an article I was reading earlier this week, Saquon Barkley facing stacked boxes when Odell wasn't in, he had obscene amounts of fantasy points, and he's going to be facing a lot of stacked boxes this year. So I think you can expect 17 to 20 fantasy points a game from him, which is pretty good. This year he averaged like 21.5. So I think you can expect that from Saquon Barkley. The question is, can he have a Gurley-like season?
just where he just dominates.
Gurley finishes the number 1 half PPR running back, and he missed 2 games.
I think Barkley can. I don't know if it's going to be this year though.
I mean,
I don't know if he like. It helps Todd Gurley that I think he had a fantastic team around him.
Yeah,
fantastic O-line for the first half of the year. Fantastic quarterback,
right?
A fantastic coach, like all that stuff. Barkley's got not too much around him.
Yeah,
so he's still going to be very good. I'd take him number 1 overall as well.
Right.
But to answer the Todd, is he going to have a Todd Gurley type season? I'm not sure about that.
So the Giants have improved their offensive line. The positions that you really need to worry about.
Eli. Sorry.
Yeah. The positions that you have to worry about when it comes to running backs is the interior offensive linemen, so the guards and the center.
Well, I mean, those are the most important, but
those are the most
tackles
important.
are still important.
Tackles are important, but for a guy like Barkley, who's, friggin' 6 feet tall and 220 and can run over a truck.
Barkley can also cut it outside, though. He can.
Yeah. Oh, he can cut it outside, but a majority of the time this team sends it in. So, I mean, they've improved their guard position a little bit. I think they added Will Hernandez, but that could be wrong. But anyway, so their offensive line looks okay. I said he would finish 6th among quarterbacks next year. Mm-hmm. But as far as my rankings are concerned, I'd have to pull them up. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that I like over Baker Mayfield, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I know.
And it's not even just, I love Baker Mayfield. He was a guy that I was, targeting, even before they got Odell, before they brought in Kareem Hunt. Now, Kareem Hunt doesn't make a huge difference, but before all that happened, they still had Jarvis Landry. They still had a good offensive line. They still had
David
Njoku. They had Nick Chubb. They had some good pieces on their offense, right? And so I was like, he's a great 10th round pick. They added one guy, Rick. Right. Odell Beckham made him jump 5 rounds.
4 rounds, because he's going the 6th. So that's why I said. That's why I only said a tad, because Odell should jump you at, I would say, 2 to 3 rounds.
Yeah.
4, I think, is a little much. Being the 4th quarterback off the board is a little much.
Yeah.
I think that people are getting a little too crazy on the hype train, But
yeah,
I do think he did deserve an increase.
My last edited rankings in March had Mahomes 1, Rodgers 2, Ryan 3, Luck 4, Watson 5, Newton 6, Goff 7, Phillip Rivers 8, Roethlisberger 9, Russell Wilson 10, and then going from there.
Did you have Matt Ryan on that list?
Yeah, Matt Ryan's down at where did I put Matt Ryan? Oh, he's up at 3.
Oh, okay, all right.
So
you had Matt Ryan 3?
Yeah.
Interesting. This was before the Odell trade, correct?
Yes, this is before the Odell trade. So I would probably, on this one, I have Baker Mayfield 16. Just because there was nothing really jumping him forward. But I would probably move him up past Phillip Rivers, which would put him in 8 on my boards. I would probably take Goff, Newton, Watson, Luck, Ryan, Rodgers, and Mahomes over him.
I think I'd take him over Newton and Goff.
Okay. Why?
Because the Odell factor.
Sorry, I have a cold. I keep coughing.
That's okay. I think, considering what you said earlier, the prorated that he finished 6th in the second half of the year, he's going to have the same offense. You add Odell, Kareem Hunt will help once he plays.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be number 4. Again, that's, I think, a little too high. But I don't think it's crazy to say that he could be top 7, top 6.
I don't think it's crazy to say that. I just think it's crazy that he has been hyped up into that position. Because here's the thing with me. Baker last season, whether we believe it or not, whether we want to believe it or not, finished as the QB 16.
Correct. And didn't play in 2 games, right?
He didn't play in 2 games. Okay. So I did the numbers on that. Mm-hmm. And he would have finished ahead of Tom Brady, I believe, right behind Andy Dalton with those 2 games if you gave him an average of 17 fantasy points a game, which is what I think his outage was.
Yep.
So if you look at Baker Mayfield and you say, okay, he finished as the 15th quarterback, right, last year, what makes people so quick to believe, besides the Odell Beckham addition, what makes people so quick to believe that Baker Mayfield is just all of the sudden, because I have a note here when I made these rankings. Major watch, could be a breakout. Before they added Odell, he was Baker Mayfield's a guy to look at. He's a guy to watch. It could be a similar situation as Patrick Mahomes the past year. Patrick Mahomes came into the season. He's talented, good. He can get out of the pocket. He can do everything well. And he has all this talent around him. He's going to break out. That's why you drafted Patrick Mahomes. You got him in the 9th round. You look at Baker Mayfield. That's what Baker Mayfield was supposed to be. But now you got all this hype. You got all this stuff surrounding him. You got a ton of people drafting him far too early in their drafts. Yeah. And now I'm looking down at my notes and being like, why are people drafting Baker Mayfield so high? Because if he doesn't live up to the hype,
that is true.
And he busts, people are going to be sitting here. This is where people arguably 4th, 5th, 6th round, this is where people arguably drafted, and some people drafted him way higher. Aaron Rodgers last year. This is where people did that.
Like a 3rd round pick last year, yeah.
And he finished as the QB6 this year. How badly did Aaron Rodgers
hurt
teams?
It was really only QB6 because he scored 40, 50 in the last game of the season. He would have been QB10.
How badly did Aaron Rodgers hurt teams that he was on?
He did. He hurt teams. We can say it. We can
prove
it in our own
when I
league.
say Baker Mayfield's going off the board as the 4th quarterback in the 5th or 6th round, and the first 5 rounds to me, let's just assume he's the 5th round.
He will be a 5th rounder.
He will be a 5th rounder in a lot of leagues. In the first 5 rounds, I've said this before, and we're going to go over this on a draft strategy show when we get that far in the offseason. But when we get that far, we'll talk about building the structure of your team in those first 5 rounds is so key. And if you're wasting it on a risky pick for a quarterback that may not even finish as the 6th best quarterback on the board next year, who has to live up to all of this hype, who has to carry an organization who sucked for a very long time into the promised land. Like this is a lot for one man to take on. Like he has to be good. This is not the Browns, well, they don't have to be good. They have to be good now.
They have to make the playoffs.
This is it. Like Freddie Kitchens is out if you don't play well. Like John Dorsey might be out if you don't play well. This is the team that you have to win with right now. And I don't know if Baker can do it. That's my problem, is that I'm not wasting.
I think he can.
That is like one giant question mark right next to Baker Mayfield. And it's like, does that make you want to draft him?
No, it doesn't. But I do think he can. And
I think he can.
I agree with you for most of the things you said. The one thing you did say is you asked me, other than Odell, what gives you reason to draft? Like that increase. And I did just talk about this earlier, but I'll bring it up again. Is you said earlier the pro-rated stats in the second half. Once Hugh Jackson, like that whole team was awful when he was head coach. Once they moved away from him, and which they're not going to have Hugh Jackson in 2019. Once they moved away from him, Mayfield was a different quarterback. He was fantastic. You're going to have that throughout the entire season with Odell, with Kareem Hunt for at least like 6 games. Mm-hmm. I think that gives you enough reason to jump him into the top 7 or 6 guys.
To me, I do believe he's going to finish as a top 6 quarterback. I think it's just it's not a buyer beware. It's more or less it's too high. Like, if he was even where I would draft him, Rick, is the 9th round. And that's a lot of people
9th round
are going to be like, they're going to be like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't follow the crowd on this because, A, I'm not drafting a quarterback right now. There are 5 guys. There are 5 guys in the last 5 rounds that I'm going to take. And I'm not taking Baker Mayfield. I would have taken Baker Mayfield
before the
Odell trade. Yeah. But after the Odell trade, I didn't, and I should have, but I did not anticipate. Thank God I didn't do any drafting.
I remember I told you this at the time.
Yeah. I didn't anticipate the explosion surrounding him. We'll see if that increases or decreases as, Joe
might move around.
Joe Schmo, who deleted his fantasy app off his phone and then decided, oh, crap, it's football season. I got to go do my fantasy draft. And jumps right back in how he drafts. But to me right now, the people that are still following and sticking in it consistently, they are very in on Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
And the people who are very in on Baker Mayfield may be very burned 5 weeks into the season.
It makes sense. But for me, you could
Don't get me wrong. I love you, Baker.
I think the quarterbacks, though, it's a kind of like Mahomes, Luck, Rodgers, Watson. I think you'll get very solid production out of those 4 guys.
Right.
After that, I think there's a chance Mayfield could be 5th. Like, there's a chance that somebody's going to step up.
There's a
you know
chance
what I mean?
Mayfield could be 1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But, like, those guys are going to be consistent, you know? I don't know. I think the drop-off is enough there where you can justify taking Mayfield as the 5th quarterback and be like, well, Cam Newton was there. Cam Newton is good. I like him, but, you know, Cam Newton has his ups and downs. You know, Jared Goff was there. How is he going to turn it up? Like, is he going to be the same guy he was for the first half of the season or the second half of the season?
Right.
Russell Wilson's there. That you probably should take Russell Wilson, but you know, Drew Brees is there.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is going to fall off.
Right.
He's getting older each year. Like, there's justifiable reasons to take Mayfield.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's just a value thing for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily have a problem with taking Baker Mayfield. So you think that's where
It's
that's
just
where
he is.
It's where he
I
is.
know what you mean. Yeah.
It's like I'm not drafting Baker Mayfield in the 4th round. I'm not drafting Baker Mayfield in the 5th round. I'm not drafting Baker Mayfield in the 6th round because in my draft strategy and my plans, Baker Mayfield does not fall into them. Like there are wide.
That's how I feel about Mahomes.
Yes.
I love Mahomes, but I don't want to take
round.
a quarterback in the late 2nd, early 3rd round.
Yeah, it's not going to work. So, and we talked about this before. Drafting quarterbacks high, drafting tight ends high isn't a valuable draft strategy.
Yeah.
Because the second, not only, like, you have to think about drafts in a, like, perspective-based way of, like, don't just think about the draft. And I said this before, like, in previous episodes, if you want to go listen to the series All That Glitters, you have plenty of time to do so before the season starts. But I've talked about this before where the quarterback position and the tight end position are completely, like, the second you draft them, they're completely valueless, almost. Whereas, if I draft Patrick Mahomes high, what am I going to get in return if I try to trade him? Am I going to get a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round player? No, I'm not.
Probably not, no.
No.
It's smart.
If I draft George Kittle in the 4th round, am I going to get a 4th round value?
If you draft George Kittle, are you going to get Leonard Fournette for him?
No.
In a trade?
No. If I offer George
Depends
Kittle
on the league, I guess.
to one of the guys in our league, and I know exactly the person, he would have said no. Well, he might have said yes. I don't know.
Most likely would have said no.
Most likely would have said no. And so when you look at the value and you compare it from player to player, yes, you're thinking about building your team, and you're like, oh, I love this guy. I love getting George Kittle on my team. I love getting Baker Mayfield on my team. I'm glad I spent that 5th round pick on him. Well, when the season starts and he has one good game, and you're like, you know what? I don't need this good quarterback. I need some running backs you should have drafted with the Baker Mayfield pick. And then you try to deal them, no one's going to want them. They're going to be like, well, the quarterbacks aren't that valuable. I'm not going to trade them. You have to think about drafts more. You have to think about your fantasy draft more than just being the draft.
I think a perfect example of that is last season. We looked at guys like let's say you spent a 2nd or 3rd round pick on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And somebody drafted Matt Ryan in the last round. They're not going to look at that and be like, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers. Like, quarterbacks, other than Mahomes last year, were pretty close together in fantasy points. So why are you going to take one in the 5th round when you can get someone who's probably going to be around the same, if not better, in round 13?
It's true. You can't.
Kirk Cousins last year was going in the 5th round.
And this is why it's not even just a quantitative risk for me. If Baker Mayfield is guaranteed, let's just say he's guaranteed top 6. Right, you go into the future. You travel with Doc Brown in his time capsule time machine, the DeLorean. And you go get the sports almanac, and you find out that freaking Baker Mayfield's going to finish as the 5th best quarterback. Right?
Okay.
Are you going to draft him still at that 5th round spot?
I probably wouldn't.
No.
I'd take him 6th round maybe, but
even if see, that's the problem. And they're going to be so. Go ahead. If I'm in a league with you and you listen to this podcast, go ahead. Take Baker Mayfield. Do it. I don't care.
I mean, let's say I did just come back from the future, and I know he's going to finish fifth.
Welcome to the rookie show where we talk only about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. In that scenario, I would take him in the 6th round, not the 5th. That's a little high.
6th round, yeah, maybe.
Because I have my first 5 rounds.
But even that, like this is the big thing for me is that when you look at last year, the 6th quarterback to finish, like I said, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, Andrew Luck was 5, but should have been a little bit higher. But Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, those 4 guys right there burned fantasy teams, and it wasn't because when you draft a quarterback that high, you are expecting that quarterback to be your ride or die quarterback. Like you're going to go with him the entire season.
Carson Wentz burned teams last year. Kirk Cousins burned teams last year.
And I think that's the big thing is like
Cam Newton burned some teams.
This is why I'm going in the extreme opposite end of the spectrum is I'm going to stream quarterbacks.
Tom Brady burned teams last year.
Yeah, people are still going to draft them very high.
Yeah,
like 8th round. But anyway, this is why I'm streaming quarterbacks next year because I don't see the value in holding unless you get Patrick Mahomes or unless you get Aaron Rodgers or unless you get Andrew Luck or even Deshaun Watson. Unless you get one of those 3 or 4 guys, you're not going to get consistent like 4 or 5, 6, 7 huge games out of a guy.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that. Like Aaron Rodgers, like you said, he had like 2 40-point games, and then the rest of the season it was like 17, 18 points. You get the 2 40-point games out, and you're getting burned at the quarterback. Right, unless you drafted somebody in that spot.
And people might be saying like, "Oh, well, if those are the only 4 guys, why not draft one of them?" Well, because look at the top 5, 6 last year. The year before that.
This is what I go to, and I wrote these numbers down, and I thought it was important to go with this. So going off those 8 games, right? Those final 8 games where I gave you all those numbers.
With Mayfield?
Yeah. Do you want to know what his bust percentage was with a finish, with a QB1 finish being over 20 points and a bust being under 20?
Okay.
He had a 50% bust percentage.
Okay.
He had a game where his first game he finished with 18. His second game he finished with 22. I can't believe I have this memorized. His third game he finished with 13. Fourth game he finished with 13. Fifth game he finished with 12. Sixth game he finished with 22. Ooh. And the 8th game he finished with like 25. I think did I skip a game?
7.
Oh, 7. Yeah. Somewhere it was like 20, 22, and 25 or something like that. So slowly improved, got better, but at times he still had a rocky performance. Is he worth that 4th round pick? No. And so
4th
that's
round is way too early.
5th round, or I mean 5th round or 6th round.
5th round I think is still obviously too early, and I
think 6th round.
6th round I think is I agree. That's
so. I mean the numbers don't lie on Baker. I just think we need to. I'm not saying don't draft Baker Mayfield. Stay away. Stay far away. Don't draft him that high is what I'm saying. And B, I'm saying that Baker Mayfield is extremely talented, and he's extremely good, and he's got all this talent around him. I would not be surprised if he finished in the top 3, and I would not be surprised if he ends up being one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy next year. And he doesn't burn.
He's got the upside. I think he has a higher upside than he's got a higher upside than Russell Wilson.
I'm not.
But the floor for Wilson is lower, or higher, right. I should say.
Yeah, right. And I think Baker could completely destroy. I just don't. For me, when I do a draft, I don't want to go back and go, oh, I shouldn't have drafted a quarterback there. I've done that too many times in my fantasy life.
Carson Wentz.
My fantasy football life. Yeah, Carson Wentz. Drafting a quarterback high and then going back and saying, there was a guy there that I was looking at, but I took the quarterback instead. Don't draft Baker Mayfield.
I mean, last year in our own draft.
Don't draft Baker Mayfield at 5 or 6.
In our own draft, I didn't have a quarterback. People were like, I don't want to name names, Fred, if you're listening, was like, oh, you got to get a quarterback. You don't have a quarterback. You know the 3 guys that I was looking at in round 10 last year? Mahomes, Breeze, Andrew Luck were all available in the 10th round of our draft. We have a very competitive draft. There are guys out there in the later rounds that you can get.
Definitely. These are some of the guys, if you're caring about the rest of the rookie class. Josh Allen finished as the 20th quarterback on the board, the 2nd highest rookie. He had it doesn't even matter what his consistency rank is, but he did average. It was low. Yeah. He averaged 17 points a game. Now, Josh Allen, over the last, I think I believe it was the last 4 weeks of the season, finished as the QB3 in fantasy football over the last 4 weeks.
Wow.
I believe he had 2 games with 4 points. Now, I wanted to look up the numbers, like the legitimate statistics for Josh Allen. And
What he did.
He didn't throw the football all too well in those games.
Yeah.
What he does is he runs all over the field like a buffoon. He scored 2 touchdowns passing and 2 touchdowns rushing in one of those games. So he is a good value in the late rounds.
He's kind of the opposite of Mayfield.
He's the opposite of Mayfield. And I like Josh Allen because I don't know, when you look at what he did this season, you hope he doesn't repeat what he did this year with 208 fantasy points. That's not what you want.
Well, he added 2 receivers. 2 guys
Two okay receivers, yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing, because now there's, which is something they didn't have last year. They have a good depth at the receiver position.
Yeah.
He gets a year older. I don't think he's going to be anything insane.
Yeah.
But if you are looking for a sleeper, he's going in the 13th round.
Right. I mean,
take a flyer on him. Do a strategy where you take a guy maybe in the 12th round where Ben Roethlisberger.
Mm-hmm.
You take him, maybe you take Jared Goff. You take a guy that you think you're going to get good value out of, then you take Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Take a flyer on him. That's what I did last year with the Breeze and Mahomes thing.
Yeah.
That's a guy who has potential to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback next year.
See, for me, I don't need the, I guess you could say you're handcuffing your quarterback, but yeah. I don't need to handcuff my quarterback. I'm just streaming it all out. I'm going.
That's the difference between me and you, though.
I'm throwing it right in the pond. And next year you'll be like, I'm streaming quarterbacks.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. It's not a bad idea. So.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, the way that I look at it, and I don't want to get in a long tangent on this, but the way that I look at it for streaming quarterbacks is that the way I look at it is like this. If I can hitting on a quarterback streaming wise is not very difficult. Mm-hmm. If you can average 21 to 22 points a game, hitting on your QB stream, then you're going to score more fantasy points than Patrick Mahomes did for his entire season. Yeah, you may not get a 40-point outing, but you're not going to have those weeks where the guy scores 12 or 13 fantasy points and you had to go with him because you spent a second-round pick on him.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Josh Allen is one of my sleepers. I think he's 5th on my sleeper list for quarterbacks. He went down after they didn't get anyone besides those 2 wide receivers.
Which are Cole Beasley and
the
Ravens.
John Brown.
Yep.
So, he got some people to throw to. My concern with Josh Allen is that he is very interception prone. He loves to turn the ball over. If he stops,
a lot of young quarterbacks are, though.
If he stops turning the ball over, right? And like you said, a lot of young quarterbacks do that. If he stops turning the ball over and he does what he did in those last 4 games this season, he could finish as a top 5 quarterback. And some people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, that's a." No, I didn't say he was going to finish as a top 5 quarterback. I said he has the potential to finish I think he has a high ceiling.
He does. That's kind of why I brought up I guess it is handcuffing, picking a veteran that you know is going to succeed.
Told you.
And then Josh Allen, because his ceiling, as you said, is high.
Right.
And when he finished 4th, you said,
in
the last 4 weeks,
that's 3rd.
That's 3rd. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. And, I mean, he had some good games, but he also, he busted a lot of games. You can't look at this past season's numbers as a reference for what Josh Allen's going to do outside of what he did towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
This is a do-or-die season for Josh Allen, I think, because if he doesn't work out, I don't know how much longer the Bills will wait on him.
They're still not a good team.
They're not a good team at all. But was Josh Allen a good quarterback? That's
last
the question.
Year,
yeah. So, I loved if Josh Allen improves and stops throwing picks, Josh Allen could be a very good fantasy quarterback because he runs it all over the field.
Yep.
He could be very similar to Cam Newton. Cam Newton has a better arm than Josh Allen. Well,
no. I think Josh Allen has a better arm.
So, if he can figure out how to throw the ball in the NFL, he's going to run it all over the field like Cam Newton. He could finish as a top 5 quarterback.
It's not actually crazy if you think
it's about it. It's not crazy if you really do think about it.
It sounds crazy, but it's not.
Because the end of last year, the worst case scenario is that Josh Allen comes out in the first 3 games of the season is average, and whoever drafted him in the 13th round.
Correct.
Like, I need to pick some guy up off the waiver wire.
That is the difference between him and Mayfield.
And if you were to sit there, and I see him as a great streaming option if he's sitting on the waiver wire, but I would not be surprised if he's sitting on the waiver wire by week 3. And
he might not be drafted in some leagues.
He might not even be drafted in some leagues. So it's like Josh Allen will be there. He will be there for you at some point to pick up off the waiver wire or draft. And so it's your choice. You can either draft Baker Mayfield with the 4th pick, or you can take a risk on Josh Allen with a much less risky pick and a much more valuable one. Sam Darnold was the 3rd finisher among rookies. He finished 26th among quarterbacks. He was straight up bad if you were talking in terms of fantasy this past year. But he had a decent rookie season. The Jets added Le'Veon Bell. They didn't add much to their receiving core besides, was it Robbie Anderson, or I can't remember who it was. They added one more receiver.
Jamison Crowder.
Jamison Crowder, thank you. And they have Chris Herndon, who they believe in as their tight end. There's not too many targets around Sam Darnold.
No.
But I want him to be good.
I do too.
Desperately want Sam Darnold to be good.
The thing with Sam Darnold, I think he's talented. I think he's probably in the long run dynasty leagues. I would take him over Josh Allen.
Yeah.
For this upcoming year, they didn't really do too much. I think he will improve from last year, but I don't think he's going to take too much of a step. Although, if you look in the past, adding a very good running back so the defense focuses on the running back to a young quarterback does help young quarterbacks. So having that veteran running back that is pretty darn good, like Le'Veon Bell. So I do think that'll help.
Yeah.
But I don't see him taking too big of a step. But again, 13 round, like you're sitting there in round 13, you have Ben Roethlisberger, and you're like, maybe I want to take a flyer on him. He's one of those guys that I would definitely sleeper alert,
Yeah.
Now I have a question.
What's that?
Would you take Josh Allen or Sam Darnold? Because currently, you want to know where they're going in drafts?
Where?
Sam Darnold is going 1 in half PPR, 10-team league. He's going pick 123.2. Josh Allen is going pick 123.3. That's literally ridiculous. The exact same.
That's ridiculous. I would probably... Okay, so like you said, in a dynasty league, I'd love to have Sam Darnold over Josh Allen. I think in the short term, this is what I'm starting... For this upcoming season, for redraft leagues, which is what we talk about, the thing with Josh Allen is his rushing yards and his rushing touchdowns. If he continues to produce in that area, he will be good. And I think those guys are instantly good. It takes a guy like Sam Darnold a couple of years to get to the point where he's actually going to be fantasy relevant, because he's relying. Would you say he's putting all of his fantasy numbers for the quarterback position in one basket? He's saying all of my passing numbers are going to be my fantasy points, whereas a guy like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who we'll talk about in a second, are passing and throwing the football. So they may not pass it as much. They may not get as good passing numbers as Sam Darnold does, but they get the rushing yards to boost up their fantasy numbers. And I think in terms of real-life quarterbacks, I would take Sam Darnold. In fantasy, I would take Josh Allen.
I agree. I'd take Josh Allen. Maybe not this upcoming season for Darnold, but maybe the following season is when he takes that next step of being an elite fantasy quarterback.
Right.
As of redraft leagues, as of today, I'd probably have Josh Allen ahead of Sam Darnold.
I mean, as far as what the Jets added for Sam Darnold, I do like the improvement. Like you said, adding Le'Veon Bell to that offense gives somebody, like last year when you faced the Jets, as a defensive coordinator or defensive-minded coach,
you didn't have to worry about anything.
You didn't have to worry about much of anything. It was okay, let's solve this rookie quarterback. So if Darnold can take that step forward, Adam Gase is decent with quarterbacks. The time that he had with what's-his-face over in what's his name?
In Miami?
Yeah, what's the quarterback?
Ryan
Tannehill. I knew it was Ryan. I was in the right direction. Ryan Tannehill. He had Ryan Tannehill as a pet project, and Ryan Tannehill for a couple of seasons was actually relatively good. The problem with Tannehill was his injuries.
Couldn't stay on the field.
Couldn't stay on the field. Now Darnold can stay on the field. So Adam Gase gets a good quarterback who can stay on the field, and if he can turn him into something decent, he might actually be a good producer. I think Sam Darnold's far more talented than Ryan Tannehill. So it's a question of how many seasons it's going to take Sam Darnold to get up to a top 5 producer. You see a guy like Deshaun Watson. He puts up good passing numbers. Not great. I mean, they're to the par of a quarterback in the NFL, like a good quarterback. 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, that type of thing. So that's good. But those fantasy numbers don't, calculate. That's like a QB 11. But adding his rushing numbers into that pads the stats a little bit, and it puts him in the top of the conversation. So
he goes from top 10 to top 5.
For Darnold to get to the top, he's got to pass like Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, and Patrick Mahomes. Can he do that this year?
No.
Heck to the no. He's a good streaming option, though. Lamar Jackson is number 4 on this list, finished as the QB 28. Baltimore is going run the crap heavy. They're going to run it right down the throats of everyone that they play.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I have recently grown an affinity for Lamar Jackson. Not in real life. If I was a GM in the NFL, this is the last quarterback that I would want on my team.
Wow.
It's like there's 67 there's like 95 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I would take all 95 out of them.
It should be stated, like people who are especially Ravens fans, it should be just stated that Morgan here absolutely hates running quarterbacks.
I don't like. Well, I mean, for fantasy, I love running quarterbacks.
And non-fantasy wise.
Yeah. So Lamar Jackson. I've grown an affinity for Lamar Jackson because I looked at his numbers and I prorated them for the entire season of him starting. Do you know how many rushing yards he would get and how many rushing touchdowns he would get if he
He'd be like a running back.
If he prorates out, he'd have 1,200 rushing yards and like 9 rushing touchdowns.
That's insane.
That is a running back in the NFL. So that's like 200 plus fantasy points just on rushing. And then he would have right around 15 touchdowns and about 2,500 to 3,000 yards passing if he improves a little bit in the passing game. Putting all of that together, he would be at like 350 to 370 fantasy points. That's this season. So I love Lamar Jackson next year.
Okay.
And he's going in the 14th round, right?
So
this
is where the strategy might change.
Oh, no.
He was going in the 14th round.
You're killing me, fantasy owners. You're killing me.
After the Mark Ingram signing over the last month, he has jumped from the 14th round to the 11th.
Okay, I'm all right with that.
Okay. See, I was going to say the same thing. I don't love him as much in the 11th round as I do the 14th, but I still like him for everything you said.
Like right now in the 11th round in my mock drafts, I'm targeting Jameis Winston.
Okay, yeah, he's going 10th round, I think, right now.
Yeah, so I would not mind having a Lamar Jackson in the 11th round, but it's high. It's really high, people. He shouldn't even be drafted. 157 fantasy points out of like 10 games.
People see what you see, though.
Yeah, it's like if those numbers. Now, here's the other problem. You know what Lamar Jackson's going to do next year, right?
Yeah.
He's going to run the football.
It's true.
So if he's running it, defenses are going to figure that out.
That's why.
And they're in a very good defensive division, like except for Cincinnati.
Well, I mean,
Pittsburgh's got a good defense. The Browns have a good
improving.
defense.
Yeah, the Browns' offense is more. Their defense isn't bad, but I know what you mean.
Great defensive line on the Browns. Great defense.
Yeah.
So Lamar Jackson's going to have a tough time running it as much as they do. And honestly, this is how much I don't like Lamar Jackson in a real life sense. I don't know how long he's going to stay in the starting role in Baltimore.
Oh, well, they traded Joe Flacco.
They traded Joe Flacco, so they kind of have to start him. But what if it doesn't work? And it's not going to work. I guarantee you it's not going to work. I know you disagree with that, but the second this team gets behind,
I do think if
he's going to have to throw it, and he can't.
If he really can't throw next year, then you're right. It's not going to work.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I mean, if he improves, I got a report today. I got a report today saying coaches think that Lamar Jackson has improved his accuracy.
He doesn't have to be like Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, but he just has to be decent. And I think he can be decent. I don't think he was last year, but I think eventually and that might be this year, he can be a decent thrower of the football.
Yeah, I mean, if
But
he does,
you're right, he has to be though.
If he does improve, now he doesn't throw a lot of picks. That's the other thing, is that he's not going to be taken off the field because of the interceptions. But if he literally just can't throw it accurately, then he's not going to be the guy for Baltimore. Here's the problem with the style of offense that Baltimore is going to try to run next year, is that they have
to try to run the ball 50 times.
They're going to try to run the ball 50 times, yeah, and then pass it like 15. The problem with Baltimore is that the second they fall behind in a game, Lamar Jackson has now got to throw it. And if he can't throw it, there's going to be a lot of games where Baltimore Ravens fall behind. They're not going to be able to keep pace with the rest of the NFL. It's like a 1970s football team trying to join the NFL today. It's like can you imagine when this team faces the Kansas City Chiefs? It's going to be like touchdown, 28-0, and Lamar Jackson's still trying to run the football.
Yeah. It was kind of like that in the playoffs, except they played good defense. But if
their defense is good, it might
they
work
played the
a
Chargers,
bit.
right?
But everyone, this is completely out of the fantasy realm. Everyone who thinks Baltimore is going to be a sneaky team and you're going to be real good this year, back the truck up. Their defense can get them places, but I
think they'll be okay.
They're not gonna. They can't win a playoff game with this team.
I don't think that. I think they might make the playoffs though.
Let's conclude this conversation with a young man. We don't even know if he's going to start next season, but we'll throw him on this list anyway. These are all 5 of these guys were drafted in the first round of last draft, and I like all 5 of them.
I know.
By the way,
it was a great draft,
except for Lamar Jackson.
Fantastic.
But Josh Rosen, 5th quarterback. There was another rookie quarterback, Nick Mullins, who finished ahead of him at 30. But Nick Mullins will not start next year unless Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt.
Yeah.
Is he even still on the San Francisco 49ers? I don't even know.
I think so, yeah.
Josh Rosen finished as the number 33 quarterback. There's a lot of questions surrounding Josh Rosen. We don't even know if he's going to play.
Probably not. I think there's like a 80% chance he's getting traded.
If he gets traded to the Patriots or the Giants, Josh Rosen will not start a game next year. Probably. Unless Eli Manning is absolutely atrocious. If he gets traded to the Washington Redskins, Josh Rosen will probably play some games.
If that's the case, I'd still stay far away from him fantasy-wise because the Redskins are not going anywhere.
Yeah, sorry. I would definitely stay away from him. Now, if Arizona sticks with Josh Rosen and they draft Nick Bosa or they trade the pick away and they stick with Josh Rosen, I really do like Josh Rosen on the Arizona Cardinals next year. And the reason why is because every single play call last season was completely uninspired, and it was bad. It was not Josh Rosen's fault that he was bad. He
did have some.
He had some bad plays, but you literally have to go and watch the film. You have to go look up Strong Opinion Sports and watch his video on Josh Rosen. Love that dude. But watch his video on Josh Rosen, and he will explain to you why Josh Rosen is actually good. He had a couple of mistakes in a couple of games, and a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, he was really bad. He didn't do good. His numbers were bad. He only averaged 8 fantasy points per game. He busted 100% of the time. His consistency rank was 34. Like, he didn't even finish among the 32 quarterbacks. So Josh Rosen was not good last year, but Josh Rosen, he had the same completion percentage as Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had, I think the same amount of touchdowns as Sam Darnold did, and the same amount of yards that Josh Allen did passing. So he didn't really do that far away from what Sam Darnold and Josh Allen produced. Rosen is going to be a good quarterback. He has a really good arm. He has tenacity. He has the drive to do it. Whereas a guy like Josh Allen, I think he'll turd himself, and he's just not. Josh Allen is
I don't know.
I don't know if he's got the fight in him, but Josh Rosen's got fight in him somewhere. He just was on a bad team. I think he's got a good arm. He's got good accuracy. Believe it or not, he's got a great connection with Christian Kirk, who's the future wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals. He was drafted in the 2nd round, so I can say that viably. But Josh Rosen, I don't know about next year, but if he stays on the Cardinals, I think it could actually be decent in coming years. If he stays on the Cardinals as a starting quarterback, I might take a look at him for next year, but he's nothing more than a streaming option. If
So
that, I would not doubt that he even is on anyone's radar next year.
Yeah. So if, like I was saying,
like they're by the way, they're in the market to get like N'Keal Harry, who is like the putting DK Metcalf in a box very far away. N'Keal Harry is the top wide receiver in the class.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
which would be a good pickup.
that would be a good pickup.
So
for them.
you said you love Josh Rosen if he stays on the Cardinals.
I do.
Where do you have him higher than Sam Darnold next year if he stays on the Cardinals?
No.
Do you have him higher than Josh Allen?
No.
Lamar Jackson?
No.
Okay. Just making sure.
Don't
Is he
even ask
getting
Baker.
drafted?
No.
Okay. So we're on the same page.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll stay away from Rosen. I mean, I might, if he has like a decent game one, like where he gets 18 fantasy points or 20 fantasy points, like I might pick him up and stick him on my bench and hope that he breaks out or something. But I really do like Josh Allen. I'm rooting for Josh Allen.
You mean Rosen?
Josh Rosen, sorry. My God, I get those guys mixed up.
I
Even
am
when I'm
too,
like
yeah.
writing notes, I write the wrong names. Yeah, I'm really rooting for Josh Rosen to succeed. I honestly think they're going to take. Now, we can flip this. We got to complete the show, but we can flip this discussion really fast. Josh Rosen is a starting quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals right now. Assuming that they take, now we're assuming the opposite end, that they don't take Nick Bosa or trade the pick, that they take Mr. Kyler Murray. And they trade Josh Rosen, because the second they do that, they have to trade Josh Rosen.
Yep.
There are people arguing that Josh Rosen can stay on the team if they no. They got to trade Josh Rosen. He's going to check out. He's going to hold out. He's not going to play for the Arizona Cardinals. They will trade him away. If that happens, he's very far away from ever being a fantasy
probably
anything.
Because if he goes to the Redskins, he's going to blow.
Now we'll talk about
fantasy wise.
We'll probably on our NFL draft recap show in 3 weeks talk about Kyler Murray, but just really fast. What do you think of Kyler Murray on the Arizona Cardinals in 2019?
I like it. I don't know about for 2019.
Yeah,
might be like
a little hot.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's very early. We'll see where he gets drafted and stuff.
Yeah.
But I do like it for the most part.
Yeah, I like Kyler Murray.
Especially in that offense.
I like
Cliff
Kyler
Kingsbury.
Murray in 2020.
Yeah, right.
Not next year.
2020,
I mean, when you see
2021.
what a good, like one of the better rookie performances of a quarterback of all time in Baker Mayfield.
You
saw that
do you
that
think
was
he
like
could be a Baker Mayfield type?
I think he could finish it with Baker Mayfield numbers. He might finish with a little
Like
bit.
16th?
I actually see him more finishing like a Deshaun Watson the year he tore his ACL.
Okay, yeah.
But he won't tear his ACL, and he'll actually be able to finish the season. Let's hope. He was on pace for a lot of fantasy points that year, Deshaun Watson. So that's where I see Kyler Murray being if he goes to Arizona or kind of wherever he goes, I guess.
I think it depends. Well, actually, because the teams interested in him are like let's say he goes to Oakland, I think he'll do good. Giants, yeah, he'll do okay. I think Cardinals, he'll do good. So yeah, I mean for the most part. Yeah,
definitely. That'll do it for the QB position for rookies. I believe that was all the rookies. We didn't talk about tight ends. I mentioned it last week offhand that we were gonna talk about tight ends on the show this week.
There aren't any,
and there aren't any. Mark Andrews of Baltimore Ravens, who's getting a lot of looks right now. Some people who commented on our tight end posts in the past week were in love with Mark Andrews, and I'm like. Yeah. You're in love with a tight end who's going to be in an offense that doesn't pass the football?
If they do pass the football, though, I think he will get targets.
Yeah, big time.
But
so that'll do it for the QB position for rookies. Hopefully this episode prepares you for the 2019 fantasy football season. And make sure you listen next week for the rookie running back / wide receiver program for 2018, the rookies.
Yeah, Sony Michelle, baby.
And that'll do it. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions podcast. See you later, guys.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.
That's fair. Do you take him over Corey Davis? This is the important question.
Yes. Oh, my God, yes.
No.
That offense right now.
Corey Davis.
You know who I do like? As a complete side note, James Washington in Pittsburgh. I like him. He's on my sleeper list as well.
Yeah. With AB out of there, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm definitely, Christian Kirk's one of the guys I really do like. Rick's obviously not as high on Mr. Kirk, but to finish as fifth best wide receiver among rookies last year, that's pretty good. That's all right. Decent.
He does have chemistry with Rosen, I think.
Yeah,
that is fair to say.
I think that you have to. That's why I'm trying to temper my love of Christian Kirk a little bit.
Yeah.
That'll do it for the running back / wide receiver position for rookies. Tomorrow night, I will be yelling at my TV and probably sending very judgmental tweets about some of the players being drafted.
I will be too, but it won't be with the NFL draft.
NHL. Hopefully this episode prepares you for the 2019 fantasy season. You can always come back and listen to it down the road as we approach the draft season, which is coming up rather rapidly. Make sure you listen next week. We're going to give you our recap of the NFL draft and our top 5 winners and losers from the NFL draft. I'm not talking about teams. I'm talking about players.
Yeah, we ain't talking no teams.
Did DK Metcalf get drafted on a team where he can actually be successful as a wide receiver? Probably not. But we're going to find out, and we'll give you all of our opinions on the NFL draft, winners, losers, and the like. Do you have any concluding thoughts for us before we send it off?
I think DK Metcalf is a winner no matter what. If he gets drafted by the Redskins, he'll definitely be a winner because he's got Colt McCoy as his quarterback. Shout out my boy Colt McCoy. I don't want the Redskins to draft anybody because I want to see him ball.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.